I don't give a f if you love me. I don't give a f if you like me. Asking me how did it feel. Can't say it didn't surprise me. Last time I looked to my right, you was standing beside me. How can some people I love hang around who try me? Let's go. What did I miss? What did I miss? What did I miss? What did I miss? Let's go. Let's go. I'm whipping around on like 600 acres. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. You just better not ask for no favor. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. It's love for my brothers and debt to a traitor. Let's go. She might decide to say no to me now, but say yes to me later. Let's go. Her is all natty like Florida Gator. Let's go. You switch on the guys and supported a hater. Let's go. What's the get back for this TBD? I look at it like a BTC. Could be down this week, then I'm up next week. I don't give a f if you love me. I don't give a f if you like me. Asking me how did it feel. Can't say it didn't surprise me. Last time I looked to my right, you was standing beside me. How can some people I love hang around who try me? Let's go. What did I miss? What did I miss? What did I miss? What did I miss? Let's go. Hey, let's go, let's go. Hey, hey, let's go, let's go. Hey, hey, let's go. Hey, let's go. Hey, let's go. Yeah. Get punched in the face with some TLC on the dead guys. Some TLC, cause my gon' need a chili ice pack for your left eye. I'm back in your city tonight, walking around my head high. I saw bro end up pop out with them, but been Bryant gangsters headlines. It feels like nobody's there until you start giving out two tones. And nobody cares until they're in front of your tombstone. Y'all been on that type of timing for too long.
What is good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode brought to you by the League FFB. It's time, man. It's time. We are back. We're here. Week 1 is right around the corner, just a couple of days until football. And it feels like we've had all offseason to prep for this moment, but it still feels like it's snuck up on us and it's here before we even could realize it really was that time. Appreciate everybody being in the chat here early. Heavy Metal, Dan, Six Rings, Jeff, Uncle Fresh. Appreciate everybody being here. Before we get into the questions tonight, I just want to give you guys a quick breakdown of how the content schedule is going to look like now that we are in regular season type of content. So we'll break that down for you guys, and then we'll get into all of the questions because I know there's a lot of them here tonight. Start sits, waivers, all that good stuff for you guys. But now that we are in the regular season, moving forward, we are at about 10 videos at a minimum a week for you guys. So lots of content on the way. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel. That way you don't miss any of the future content. But how each week is basically going to go is starting on Sundays. It'll be our normal start sit stream in the mornings before the game start. We'll give you guys the start sits. Mondays, we're going to have a waiver wire show that is going to be a pre-recorded video. We're going to do buy, sell, hold redraft edition on Tuesdays with a Tuesday Q&A stream in the evenings on those days. On Wednesdays, we're going to be dropping our weekly rankings. So wide receivers and running backs each will get their own video for weekly rankings. So that will be for you guys tomorrow for week 1. Thursday, we have a Dynasty video for you guys. It'll be different every week, but we've talked about a couple of cool ideas for those Dynasty videos. On Friday, we have stash candidates going into the weekend that you should maybe be picking up if you have some waiver wire flexibility, maybe some roster flexibility, and a Q&A on Friday nights as always. Those were fun last year. I figured let's do them again. And the Dynasty Trade Review shows on Saturdays as well. So like I said, 10 videos a week minimum coming to you guys in the subscription feed. So make sure you guys are tapped in. But that is not what we're here for today. You guys are here for the Q&A, so let's just kick it in with the first question of the day, and that was Heavy Metal. Now, Heavy Metal says, I have Warren, Henderson, and Igbuka. What's the confidence in starting them right out of the gate? I have Tucker Kraft at tight end and DK in the flex. Good question. I mean, for me, I'm very confident in all of these players for the most part. Looking at my wide receiver rankings going into the week right now, obviously still going to be tinkering these all the way up until Sunday. But right now, Ibuka comes in as my wide receiver 32. He's a player that I'm viewing as a wide receiver 3 in fantasy. And for Trevion Henderson, he's a player that I have in my top 20. So a running back 2. Feel very comfortable plugging both of those guys into the lineup right away. The tight end, I think you have a little bit more of a conversation between Kraft and Warren, but for me right now, I would go with Kraft. It is a tough defense against the Detroit Lions, but I'm probably going to play him over Warren right away, but I'm not worried about Warren, just to reemphasize that one. But yeah, I think all of these guys are going to be great. Dan says first, and Dan, you were second, so I can't really say first, but he says, I got to pick up one for my last flex spot. Eckler, Tracy, or J.K. Dobbins full PPR, or do I just pull Bill off of the taxi? I'm not pulling Bill off of the taxi yet. I do think we're going to be pulling him off of the taxi here sooner rather than later. But for me, going to this question that you have right here for your flex spot, I am going to go with Austin Eckler. In my PPR rankings right now, Eckler is my running back 25, so just barely outside of the top 24. Still think you can play him kind of in a similar type of confidence as you would a guy like David Montgomery, as you would a guy like DeAndre Swift. So I'm plugging in Eckler into the lineup in that flex spot in a full PPR league if you can. Let's go to Heavy Metal again. He says 10 teams start 9, so all teams are pretty stacked. And that's going back to his original question. So yeah, it still remains the same in that format. Six Rings says Dak versus the Eagles Thursday Night Football with the pick and stack, or JJ McCarthy versus the Bears defense Monday Night Football Superflex League. Dak or JJM would be my QB2. I would be playing Dak Prescott over J.J. McCarthy just to start the season off. I think you're definitely going to be having weeks where you're playing JJM, but just to start the year off, let's go with Dak Prescott. That Eagles defense is going to be tough, but they're going to be playing from behind probably and going to have to be throwing the ball. Plus, you said you have the stack, so don't mind that play from you there. What else we got? Jeff says James Cook or Tony Pollard and Tyreek Hill or Xavier Worthy. I have Mahomes at quarterback. In my rankings this week, I'm going James Cook over Tony Pollard. Right now, James Cook is coming in as my running back 18. Tony Pollard is my running back 22. So I would be playing James Cook there. For Tyreek Hill and Xavier Worthy, I'm going Tyreek Hill. He comes in as my wide receiver 14. Xavier Worthy comes in as my wide receiver 23 at the moment. I know you said you have Mahomes, but probably still going to be playing Tyreek and James Cook. Fresh says flex Terry McLaurin, T-Mac, or Hendo in full PPR. So Terry McLaurin right now is my wide receiver 21 this week. I have Teteroa McMillan as the 22 overall wide receiver, and I have Henderson as my running back 20. If it were me going into the first game of the year, I'm probably going to lean Terry McLaurin. I think it's the best offense of those groups, I guess, of all of those teams. And I'll probably just play Terry McLaurin week 1. They're all very close in my rankings. But lean on Terry McLaurin based off of some of last year's production. Hopefully he can just pick that back up. John says, yo, John, appreciate you being here, man. He says pick 2 out of the 3. PPR, you got Devontae Adams versus Houston, Jerry Jeudy versus Cincinnati, and Hampton versus the Chiefs. So Devontae Adams right now currently sits as my wide receiver 16 on the week. I got Jerry Jeudy right now as my wide receiver 25, and I have Amarion Hampton currently as my running back 19. It's a little bit of a tougher matchup. Kansas City, they did have a really good run defense last year. I'm probably going to be playing Hampton and Adams, though, if I had to pick 2 in PPR. I know Cincy's defense is very intriguing, but give me Adams and Hampton. Is it crazy to have Njoku as high as tight end 4 for week 1? I don't think it's crazy at all. When I look at my current PPR rankings, I have him as my tight end 6, only behind McBride, Bowers, Kelsey, Kittle, and Hawkinson. Those are the only guys that I have above him, but I could hear an argument if you wanted to put him above maybe a Kelsey. If you wanted to put him above a Hawkinson, I could hear it. So I don't think it's crazy at all. That matchup's good for him overall. Cincinnati was ranked 32nd against the tight end position last year. So, you know, right now we don't have a lot of information about these defenses in 2025, but we do look at last year and have an ability to kind of see what we had as far as defensive points allowed last season. So yeah, I think it's still a good pick, and I don't think it's crazy. Six Ring says, appreciate you. No problem, man. Appreciate you being here. Appreciate you hanging out. Jeff Fuller, my guy. He says full PPR, Brenton Strange or Jake Ferguson. Right now, looking at my full PPR rankings, Brenton Strange currently comes in as my tight end 28. I mean, not 28, 18. My tight end 18 on the week. I have Jake Ferguson as my tight end 9. So I'm going to be playing Jake Ferguson there. I think he's a fine play. He's going to be a little bit more inconsistent, I think, this year. When you think about what we've gotten over the last couple of seasons, he was primarily operating as that number 2 receiver for Dak, but now, kind of the number 3 guy. Still think he's going to be very solid, though, coming in, like I said, low-end tight end 1 for me this week, so I would be playing Jake. Eckler or Egbuka in the flex? Interesting question. I think for me, I'm going Eckler here. Both of these guys are going to be very solid plays at their positions. Egbuka has a good matchup against Atlanta. They were very vulnerable to wide receivers last year. For me, I'm going to lean to the vet over the rookie, just going, into week 1. I think Egbuka is going to be a very solid player this year, but let's see it. Regular season football, first and foremost. It's week 1. It's not, going to be make or break. I do think Eckler is going to be the goal line back. I do think he's going to be the pass catching back, and Jacory, Bill, Krosky, Merritt can be worked in over the course of the season, but I think they're going to lean on Eckler early on. So I'm going to go with him right now as a safe floor and potentially a decently high ceiling type of play if he can get into the end zone. Gronk says, I'm in a keeper league, keep 2. I kept Josh Allen and Lamar. My running backs are weak, and my only wide receivers are Nico T. Addison. Should I trade away Allen for CD? Team Superflex start 8. I don't know if I would be trading away Allen for CD. I think your wide receivers are still fine. It just feels like you're going to have a very good advantage of having those 2 quarterbacks, and you chose to keep both of them. I think you're probably going to have to rock with the quarterbacks right now and find your positional players a little bit later, because you kind of made that bet already. So I think you're going to have to line that just to start the year and see what happens. JC says, which 2 out of the 4 should I be starting? Pearsall, Marvin Harrison Jr., DJ Moore, and Jerry Jeudy. I'll go through each of these guys for you in my rankings, but I will tell you it's Marvin Harrison Jr. and DJ Moore for me. DJ Moore comes in as my wide receiver 17 on the week. Marvin Harrison comes in as my wide receiver 19. Jerry Jeudy, my wide receiver 25. And I have Ricky Pearsall, my wide receiver 34. So I'm going to be going with DJ Moore and Marvin Harrison Jr. Jeremy says, thank you, brother, for looking at my lineup. Yeah, no worries, man. Appreciate you being here. And appreciate you, hanging out in this community. It means a lot. Philip says, Mason Taylor or Mike Gesicki, full PPR, no tight end premium. Tough. Let me look. I don't know where these guys are at the top of my rankings, because I think both of these guys are fairly far down. I got Gesicki as my tight end 27 on the week, and I have Mason Taylor as my tight end 25. I probably would go with Mason Taylor. He probably can go up my rankings a little bit. It's tough to project what's going to happen as far as passing volume goes in that New York Jets offense right now, but he is the number 2 receiving option. He's coming off of an injury. But I think if I'm playing the field here, it's probably going to be Mason Taylor. I'm going to be looking for him to catch a couple more receptions than Mike Gesicki. Gesicki's going to be a fine streaming, best ball play type of option if something ever happens to T, if something ever happens to Jamar Chase. That's when I'm really going to be in on Gesicki. But when both T. Higgins and Jamar Chase are on the football field, I'm not as excited. Dak or Drake May for week 1, 4-point passing touchdown. Right now, it's tough for me to really love the matchup for Dak Prescott. I do like Dak as a player this year, but that first matchup in Philly on the road, it is tough. I think I'm going to go with Drake May there. The rushing upside, Las Vegas's defense is a little bit weaker. Probably going to be playing him there and just living with the rushing floor that he gives you week 1 coming out of the gates. Gronk says, my running backs are David Montgomery, Tracy, Harvey, Scattaboo, Braylon, and Bill. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely lots to be, I think, desired in that running back room. Honestly, I think running back is more of a need for you than that wide receiver room is. So if you are trading away one of those quarterbacks, I'd be trying to trade it away for like an elite running back, like a Bijan, and maybe you can get a Bijan and a flex play wide receiver or something like that. But the fact that it's 2 starting QBs and you kept both of those elite QBs, I'd be interested to know, Rob, who you passed on keeping to keep the quarterbacks. Like, what running backs and wide receivers did you pass on keeping? Uncle Fresh says running back room is Bijan, Hampton, Henderson, Caleb Johnson, Mason, and Sharp, relying on a lot of rookies. Should I look to trade for another vet or roll with what I got? Honestly, I think what you have right now is fine. Bijan's going to be a locked and loaded RB1 pretty much every single week. I think Hampton and Henderson have upside to play each and every week, and I think both of those guys are going to be playable as at least a running back 2 early on in the season. And that's going to give your roster time to churn, to see if Caleb Johnson can take a role, to see if Jordan Mason is more involved or something happens to Aaron Jones, or see if something happens to Kenneth Walker. So for me, I'm not looking to make the trade yet. I like that it's top of mind for you right now, but I wouldn't be doing it just yet. I'd be willing to roll with those guys at least to start the year, with Bijan, Hampton, and Henderson as my primary guys that I'm cycling through. Peter says, new subscriber. Appreciate you here, Peter. Means a lot there. He says, I have a dynasty team and I'm looking to trade some players. Do you think it is worth trading Josh Allen, Marvin Harrison Jr., Garrett Wilson, Jordan Mason, Chuba, and Addison? Well, I think it's going to depend on the context of your team, really, first and foremost. I think if you're a contending roster, I'm not moving a guy like Josh Allen. I'm not moving a guy like... he's probably the only one that I'm not moving if I'm in a contending roster. Now, if you are a rebuilding roster, I think all of these players, except for maybe Marvin Harrison Jr., are available for me. So I think it's going to depend on the context of your team here, Peter. But basically, I think the only non-negotiables for me are, if you're rebuilding, I'm holding on to Marvin Harrison. If you're contending, I'm holding on to Josh Allen. But Garrett Wilson, Jordan Mason, Chuba, and Addison, all of those players can be had at a price. I guess you're just going to have to determine what that is, but I'm okay moving any of those guys if you want to. John says, how do you feel about Romeo Doubs? He's an interesting player. I think right now, obviously with the Jaden Reed injury, he's more of a streaming candidate than I think really anything else. Great best ball pick, a weekly pick if you do DFS, but he's not really a guy that I'm throwing into my lineup super confidently. Let me just see where I have him in my rankings here this week. I want to say he's like in the 50s or maybe later than that even. Yeah, I got him at 55 in my full PPR rankings this week. So we'll see what happens there. But that's with Jaden Reed still questionable. We'll see what happens with Jaden Reed. Marshall says Diggs or Waddle. Right now in my rankings, I have Waddle as the better play. I kind of want to see one game back from Stephon Diggs with the ACL tear. That is something that I'm kind of monitoring. Right now, he's my wide receiver 37 in my rankings, so just outside of a wide receiver 3 territory. I think he's more of a flex play this week early on. I do have Jalen Waddle as my wide receiver 29, so he's more of a wide receiver 3 play for me. I think he has very similar upside to a guy like Diggs with less risk, and the Indianapolis Colts defense isn't great. So I think we would be playing Waddle in this situation. Steve says, start one in the flex, Pollard, Reed, and Diggs. Starting the player, I mean, Reed makes me nervous. We just said Diggs kind of is outside of my wide receiver 3 territory in the flex range. Pollard to me is a running back 2 this week, a fringe running back 2, if you say so. I'd be playing him right now, to be honest. I think he has, especially with Tajay Spears banged up, the potential to be the pass catching back, the goal line back, and it's going to depend on how good Cam Ward in this offense runs, but I would be playing Pollard right away over those 2 guys in week 1. Uncle Fresh says, appreciate you, and TD Flip says, we are so back. And yes, we are, man. It's crazy, man. Like I said, I feel like this season, I apologize, I keep touching my nose. I have like this tickle in my nose, but it feels like I said earlier, this season kind of snuck up on me. I feel like it does that every year, where it's like we're waiting all summer, and then you get to that point in like July, early August, where it's like you can kind of feel that football season is coming, but it's still far enough away that you're like, man, we got a long time until football's here. But then it always feels like, and maybe it's because the content for me ramps up in August pretty aggressively to where I'm doing a video pretty much every single day. But it feels like once you start getting into August, those days go by so quickly. And we get to a point here where then all of a sudden we're talking about week 1 and who to play, who to sit, all of that good stuff. So it's just crazy, man. I am glad that it's back. I'm going to enjoy it. It always feels like the season it comes and it goes in a blur, but I'm very excited. Kels says, start 2 in PPR, Sutton, Adams, and Ricky Pearsall. So Ricky Pearsall right now, wide receiver 34. For me, Sutton is currently my wide receiver 20, and I have Devontae Adams as my wide receiver 16. So if you're going to play one of the two, it's going to be, or I guess if you're going to play 2, for me it's Sutton and Adams. I think those guys are definitely the players that we should be plugging into the lineup. TD says, felt like we waited and prepped all summer, took forever, then 10 seconds late, all of our drafts are already done. That's what I'm saying, man. Like, I don't know, man. It feels like there's little stretches of the offseason that drag in a way. I think always after the NFL season finishes, you have that time where everybody's like, all right, fantasy is over. It's time to relax. And now you kind of sit there and it's like, maybe the NFL playoff period where, our fantasy championships end in week 17, and then we're all kind of just watching the NFL playoffs as fans. And then it's like, you have a month there where it's like, all right, what do we do? And then a rookie draft process always starts, right? We start looking at rookies, we start drafting, or I guess we start scouting these players and talking about the combine and the Senior Bowl and a lot of these things. And then you have the NFL draft, which it builds up all the way to that moment. Then you have the NFL draft, and then dead. That's like the dog days of the summers. Right after those rookie drafts, you got to wait a month, the whole month of June, or the whole month of even July sometimes, where it feels like content and it feels like the NFL is at a standstill just waiting for training camp. And then once that gets there, it really starts rolling. But yeah, it's like it comes and goes in waves, right? And once we get to this point in the season, it's like, you better be ready because it's here. And if you're not ready, you're going to get left behind and the season's going to be gone before you know it. So it's kind of crazy. What do we have here? Studley says, about to start a guillotine draft. Any studs with easy early schedules you can rattle off? Absolutely. Let's look at some early season schedules. I'll tell you who I like here. Hold on. Let me pull up my strength of schedule early season. All right, so at the quarterback position, Studley, if you're looking for quarterbacks with early season easy schedules, Kyler Murray is going to be one of those guys. Brock Purdy is going to have an easy early season schedule, and so is a guy like Justin Fields potentially if you want to take the rushing upside. But I think Kyler Murray and Brock Purdy are the two main guys there. If you're looking at the running back position, Bijan has a great early season schedule. So does James Conner. So does Kenneth Walker. So does CMC and Alvin Kamara. Bucky Irving does as well. So there's lots of guys at the running back position that have pretty good early season schedules. At the wide receiver position, we do have T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, DJ Moore, Drake London, Nico Collins has a pretty solid one as well. And then tight end position, you would be looking at guys like David Njoku has a pretty good early season schedule. So does TJ Hawkinson. So those would be the guys that I'd be looking at potentially to start the year. Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield, maybe even a Jalen Hurts. We can throw him in there. James Conner, Kamara, CMC, Bijan, all of those guys. I think that's probably where I'd be starting. I know I just threw a whole bunch of names at you, but just looking at the early season schedules, those would be like my top picks. Kel says, how do you feel about Achane? Confidence level is wavering just a little bit with the calf injury. However, it's not really moving him down my board much as far as week 1 rankings go. I have him still flirting with that, running back 1 territory. He comes in as my running back 9 on the week. I do think Ollie Gordon is a little bit involved if he's still battling from the calf injury. But I'm still playing him as a running back 1. So I'm not super worried, but obviously there's enough worry there where I don't have him as like a top 5 guy. Trey Benson is about to go crazy. Maybe. I feel like James Conner is just inevitable, though. James Conner is always going to be a guy until I guess he's not. But if he goes down, Benson should have a pretty solid year. Where do you have Tet, Hunter, Egbuka, and Golden in your rankings? Good question. All of the rookies. So the highest rookie at the wide receiver position of those guys for me is going to be Tetairoa McMillan. He comes in as my wide receiver 22, has a pretty solid matchup against Jacksonville as well. Like that for him. I have Egbuka as wide receiver 32 is the next guy. Wide receiver 36 is Travis Hunter. And Matthew Golden is my wide receiver 42 against the Detroit Lions and Terrion Arnold. So that's kind of how I have those guys. I would say view Tet as a wide receiver 2, view Egbuka as a wide receiver 3, Hunter as like a flex play, low end wide receiver 3, and then probably Matthew Golden is just a flex play. Aaron Rodgers is God. That's crazy. You didn't even spell his name right, so how can you even believe that? Dan says, got meatballs, wings, and tacos in my starting food lineup for Sunday. For my flex, do I do buffalo wing dip or veggies and ranch? I think this is going to be an unpopular opinion, Dan, and this may be, a guy that is probably not a consensus. Like the community doesn't love it as a consensus pick, but I think it's just the right pick for your lineup. I'm going with the veggies and ranch. And I think it's because you already kind of have the proteins covered, right? Like you got meatballs, wings, and tacos already in the starting lineup. We need to balance that diet just a tiny bit. I mean, we could go crazy week 1, but that's like really volatile assets in the starting lineup if you go all protein. So let's balance it with a little bit of veggies. Nice high floor type of play. The ranch is going to give you a little bit of a ceiling there too. So I'm going to go with the veggies and ranch here, Dan, in that starting lineup. Dallin says CMC top 3 and he ain't 3. I will agree with you here for week 1. He comes in as my running back 2 on the week. Kel says pick one, George Pickens, J-Mo, or Matthew Golden. For me, I have J-Mo and George Pickens this week right now currently ranked back to back. Pickens is my wide receiver 30. J-Mo's my wide receiver 31. And then Golden I have as wide receiver 42. So I am going to go with Pickens, but I don't have a strong opinion. Like I said, they're back to back. So if you have a strong opinion between J-Mo and Pickens, take either of them. I have them in the same exact tier, 30 and 31 in my rankings. What do we have here? KJ says, who's the better tight end play? Ferguson, Ertz, or rookie sleeper Harold Fannin? Full PPR. I am going to go with Ferguson here. He comes in as my tight end 9 on the week. When I look at Fannin, I'm not even going to tell you to play him. I just think we're over our skis there if we're talking about that from a redraft perspective. But Ertz I have as my tight end 17 in my rankings. So let's go with Ferguson this week. Where do you have Hampton and Harvey in the rankings at the running back position? So I have Hampton this week as my running back 19. Think he's kind of going to be this safe running back 2 play. That defense against Kansas City's run defense is a little bit tough, but I still think he's going to get a majority of the workload. Harvey comes in a little bit lower for me. I have him as a flex play. He's like the... actually, I think I have him more as like an RB3 play. Have him as my running back 29. So Hampton 19, Harvey 29. Kel says Ridley or J-Mo in half PPR. I'm going to go with J-Mo there. Have him higher. Ridley comes in for me a little bit lower in the rankings. Studley, let me just double check that. I said that, but then I was like, wait a minute. Yeah, I got JMO at 31 and I got Ridley at 33. So just a little bit higher. Studley says that helps a ton. Thanks, man, and love the content. Appreciate you, man. I really do. Thank you for being here. Mostly says, sent that Marv trade to you the other day. Now wide receiver room is CD, Puka, Tet, Marv, and Rome. How we looking? And also, what's your opinion on JT? Should we pivot? CD, Puka, Tet, Marv, Rome. I mean, the wide receiver room looks fantastic. What's my opinion on JT? I think if you're a team that's playing to win right now, he is a very, very good player to have on your lineup. Right now, I mean, just going into the week, like week 1, I have him as a top 5 play at the running back position against Miami. I think he's going to be a very reliable player this year, but he is a little bit older. So in Dynasty, you know, he's approaching the age cliff. He's not a player that I would say is old or that is over the age cliff, but he has a lot of carries on the body, some injuries in the past. Could you pivot? Absolutely. But if you're ready to go and you're ready to, you know, contend for a Dynasty championship this year, it's going to be hard for you to find many options much better than what Jonathan Taylor is going to produce for you as a, you know, weekly running back 1 probably in your lineup. TD says, W, veggies, and ranch take, content we are here for. Dude, I love questions like that, just random questions sprinkled in. We talk football basically 24/7, 365 all year round. So the fact that sometimes you guys will throw me a bone and give me a funny question or ask a random question about my life or whatever, I love them. I'll never turn those types of questions away. John says facts. That's probably to the ranch and the veggies as well. Jack says, in Dynasty, would you rather have Zay Flowers or Rashee Rice? I would rather have Rashee Rice in Dynasty. It's a closer conversation in redraft this year, but Dynasty, give me Rashee. Gronk says, Andrew, last season I traded away Neighbors for Josh Allen since at that point in the season I was playing for the 2025 season since my 2024 season was over at that point. I traded away Neighbors for Josh Allen. I feel like if your season was over, I probably would have rather had Neighbors as the young asset in Dynasty, because I feel like Josh Allen was just going to keep scoring you more and more points. Now, Neighbors was still going to score you a ton of points, but it feels like, I mean, you can't go wrong with either guy on your Dynasty team, and if you need the QB, there's no better QB than Josh Allen. But I feel like if you were playing for the future, Neighbors would probably have been my pick there. Marshall says, W strategy, draft CMC late first, early second, have him give you 3 elite RB1 weeks, and then trade him for Saquon, Bijan, Gibbs to eliminate the injury risk rest of season. That is probably the W strategy you were looking for. And I think that early season schedule for CMC is pretty nice as well. Let me just pull that up because I know we were just looking at those and I kind of saw it. Here we go. Running backs, first 3 weeks. Yeah, I mean, he gets Seattle, who was 14th last year against the run. New Orleans, who was 6th. And keep in mind, that's the 14th easiest. 6th easiest was New Orleans, and 10th easiest against Arizona. So he's basically playing 2 bottom 10 defenses to start the year. So I like that strategy. Hopefully your league has some people that will do that. I have CMC in a few Dynasty leagues. I think 1 or 2 Dynasty leagues. I'm probably going to try and get out from him if I can, you know, mid-season if he's kind of having a good year. Dallin says, love this channel, best fantasy football channel on YouTube. Appreciate you, man. Appreciate you. Mostly says, my question was based off Dynasty. My bad. Should have mentioned that. Yeah, I mean, I understood it, I think, mostly, because you said you traded for him. So I think it's still the same thing. Should you pivot off of JT in Dynasty? I don't think you need to if you're trying to win. But like I said, if you're playing for the future a little bit, then maybe pivot. You're kind of in the sweet spot with JT where you might be getting out a little bit early, but you're also going to get peak value, I think, for where he's at as a producer. So there you are. Pick 1.5 PPR, Ricky Pearsall, Josh Downs, Jalen Warren, or Trevion Henderson. I'm going to go with Trevion Henderson. I would rank them Henderson, Ricky, probably Warren, and then Downs. It's a toss-up between Downs and Warren for me, but Give me Henderson and Ricky. Henderson's going to have the big play potential, and I think he can get into the end zone week 1 against the Raiders. So I'd be picking him. Cook or Pollard, full PPR. I feel like Pollard is in a nutted situation with Broncos' tough passing defense. Rookie quarterback's first game, and Spears out. Pollard should touch the ball 10 plus more times than Cook. I hear you, but also I'm not benching James Cook for Tony Pollard. James Cook is definitely, in my opinion, the better player, has more upside, is going to have more scoring opportunities, more red zone touches, I think, than a guy like Tony Pollard. I think it comes down to, do you want a guy who's going to maybe see more touches but be less efficient and have less scoring opportunities, or do you want a guy who's going to be more efficient, has the big play ability, and is in the better offense? I'm going with Cook for me personally, but I hear you. They're not super far apart in my rankings, but they are a tier apart in my rankings. So I got Cook at 18 and I have Pollard at 22. Rob says, and it's points per first down league, hence why I went for the rushing quarterback. Yeah, that makes some more sense as well. That's definitely good context to throw in. Dallin says, what do you expect from Genty this year? He's a player that I think can be a low-end running back 1 this season. I don't have super high hopes for him to start the season, and I say that knowing that I have him as my running back 10 in my rankings. But I think based off of where you drafted him in your fantasy football drafts, if he's kind of giving you these fringe RB1 weeks, these high-end RB2 weeks to start the year, I think some people may feel a little bit disappointed with that because he was being drafted as like a top 5 guy at the running back position. So I do think he's going to be good. I do think he's going to have a solid amount of rushing volume. He's going to get some receiving work. He's going to have some red zone opportunities. All of that. There's no debate there for me. I just think let him be a rookie and let him grow into the NFL. And it might take a couple of weeks for him to really get going. And that's fine. That happened with guys like Jahmyr Gibbs, who was a rookie, and it took him a month or 2 to get rolling. So I definitely like him, but let's let him play the NFL first before we're really locking him in as a bona fide RB1 each and every week. Mostly says, Dynasty, rank these in order for contenders. T-Law, Purdy, Dak. So I would rank it Purdy, Dak, and T-Law for contenders. Purdy, Dak, T-Law. And I'd say Purdy because I still know you're playing Dynasty, so I do lean Purdy over Dak, but Dak might outscore Purdy. So I guess it could be Dak, Purdy, T-Law, but I would still value Purdy higher than Dak based off of the age difference. Heavy Metal says, Dynasty full PPR, start 13, 5 flex. Need Mims or Imanner for my last flex spot. I think I'm going to go with Marvin Mims. I don't love that he's coming off of the injury, but Imanner, it's tough to know what he's really going to give you week 1. I think I'm going to go Mims there, and Imanner has that tough defense. We just talked about it. You know, the pass defense from Denver is very, very tough. So, yeah, give me Mims week 1. Are we sure Cook is that much better than Pollard? I definitely am not. I think I'm set on Pollard for now, but I feel you. Yeah, I mean, I do think he is that much better than Pollard as far as efficiencies go and things like that. But, I mean, at the end of the day, I respect the opinion, and it is your lineup. So at the end of the day, you could tell me, hey, Andrew, go to hell. I don't care what you say. I'm still playing my guy, and as you should. It's your fantasy football team. I'm just here to give you my opinion, and I'm glad that you value that and want to hear it. So, I am short, though. Long story short, JD. Marshall says, where's Puka in your week 1 rankings? I've seen him fall in multiple drafts this year because of the Stafford injury worry. Yeah, I think the Stafford injury worry is more of like a year-long scary kind of thing. It's not necessarily like a week 1. For me, Puka's my wide receiver 8 in my rankings right away. I have him pinched in between Amon-Ra St. Brown and A.J. Brown, so that's probably right about where most people were drafting him and probably where he should be going. But I think the scary part of it is more, can Stafford at his age with his back problems that he's been dealing with, can he throw the football 300 times this year and, you know, play 17 games. I think that's the worry with Puka and why he was falling in drafts. Not necessarily like, is Puka going to produce? Because I think if Stafford is on the football field, Puka's a top 10 guy every week. Also, Bills will be in the red zone more, I'm sure, but Allen and Ray Davis can easily vulture cook. They can. Allen more so than Ray. I think Ray's just a change of pace guy at this point than he is a threat to James Cook. I think if they really valued Ray Davis as like a full-on piece of their offense, they wouldn't have gave Cook the money that they gave him this offseason. Dallin says, is Javonte Williams a league winner, getting him in the 13th round? I don't think he's the most talented running back on their team currently, but I don't think they have a very talented group of guys in their room either. When I'm looking at week 1, it's a tough matchup that he has against Philly, but he's like my running back 33. I have him kind of in the same range as J.K. Dobbins, Jerome Ford, Tank Bigsby is in that tier as well. It's tough to tell. I mean, it's been a couple of bad years for Javonte Williams covering from that knee injury, but I think for me, if I'm taking a upside shot in the Dallas offense in the running back room, I think Jaden Blue, even cheaper than where Javonte Williams was, is probably the better PPR pick. It's probably the bigger, like, big play type of guy. And he's basically free. I think some people, he's even going in undrafted, so you can still get him off the waiver wire. Mosley says, have a dynasty trade in the works, Jaden Blue for Luther Burden. What are we thinking? I would definitely want Luther Burden there. I think Luther Burden is by far the more valuable piece than Jaden Blue. If I can flip my Jaden Blues for Luther Burden, I'm doing it 100 out of 100 times. So I would love the Luther Burden side here. Jordan Mason, Trevion Henderson, or Calvin Ridley. Pick one of them. It's between Trevion and Calvin Ridley, but I'm going to go with Henderson week 1. Henderson coming in my running back rankings currently as the number 20 overall guy, and my wide receiver is going to have Calvin Ridley as, where is he? 33. So it's a tough matchup for Calvin against Pat Surtain. So probably going to do that. Give me Henderson. How do you feel about Jordan Mason this year? That's a really good question. Early on, like my week 1 rankings, I don't have him very high. He's more of like a RB3 / flex play type of guy. I have him very similar to the Zach Charbonnets, the Tank Bigsbys, the Javonte Williams. But I do think that there's a potential here where you have a guy like Jordan Mason who does get a little bit of the goal line carries, who does get involved a little bit more as the year goes on. I think he's a very good high upside type of running back to stash on your bench, because if anything happens to Jordan Mason, he's going to be in one of the best offenses in football, behind one of the best offensive lines in football, and probably going to be a big piece of that offense. So I definitely like him as a player to just hold on to the bench, even if it doesn't show up as fantasy football points early on in the year. Andrew, do you have Red Zone? Yes, I do. That's primarily what I watch on Sundays. I just watch Red Zone for the most part. And then on Monday mornings is really when I kind of go in, and I have the NFL Plus subscription as well, so I can go in and kind of watch the game recaps and things like that for fantasy purposes, so I can kind of have some more analysis and takeaways from those games. But as a fan, I watch Red Zone on Sundays. That's kind of what I do. 2J says, flex, Trevion Henderson, Marvin Harrison, or Xavier Worthy. Very interesting. I think I'm going to go with one of the wide receivers here. I'm going with Marvin Harrison. Give me Marvin Harrison Jr. against the New Orleans Saints. Get a chance for him to break out early on in the year against a bad team there in New Orleans. I like Marvin. Down says, getting paid time and a half as I watch this. Vibes are off the charts. That's insane. But also, I can't knock it. If you could just get paid to sit here and watch YouTube, I'm all for it. This is an insane question. Is cheesecake a pie or a cake? Really think about it. I mean, I think it's a pie if you think about it, because you have the crust of a pie, like it's a pie crust. So I would probably go with a pie and not a cake. A cake is spongy. And also I think like most cakes, you would probably put some type of frosting on it as well. You're not putting frosting on a cheesecake. So I'm going pie there mostly. You tell me if that's the right answer. JD says, what are some situations you are most looking forward to seeing play out or seeing week 1? RJ Harvey Dobbins will be very interesting. I think that one will be interesting. I'm very intrigued by what Caleb Williams and the Bears are going to look like, what Rome Odunze's role is going to look like in this offense next to DJ Moore. That's something I'm looking at. Also very interested in seeing Dallas as an offense. I think they can definitely be a great value, a light version of what Cincinnati was last year from a poor defense standpoint and a high scoring offense standpoint. So that'll be something I'm watching. I'm watching Marvin Harrison. I think I want to see a big jump from Marvin this year, obviously for dynasty purposes. What else? Definitely more like home team bias, but I'm very intrigued to watch a full game of JJ McCarthy. Yeah, I think off the top of my head, those are kind of the things that I'm looking at. I'll be watching Travis Hunter and Liam Cohen and that Jaguars offense. But yeah, I think that's everything off the top of my head for the most part. Rob says, how many dynasty leagues are you in? Are you in any redraft or keeper leagues? I am in 4 dynasty leagues and 1 redraft league. I used to play in more than that, but I have found for myself as a content creator in the space, somebody who spends a lot of time recording videos, editing videos, and things like that, I had less time to manage the teams that I was playing with when I became a creator in this space, so I had to cut back. So for me, my sweet spot is about 5 leagues, and I have 4 of them being a dynasty and 1 of them being a redraft. So for me, 5 leagues is the sweet spot just with my time schedule currently. Curtis Martin fan faux life says, not a question, but I just need to vent. Okay, I'm here for you. He says, last rookie draft of the season happened tonight. Dude drafted Jaden Blue 109. I was shook and happy at the same time. I took Judkins at the 110. That's insane, the fact that you can get Quinshon Judkins after Jaden Blue. And I get it. Judkins has a lot of stuff that's going on, off of the football field. I still am not going to draft Jaden Blue over him. So that's insane, but also good for you. Very good for you. Like you said, you're happy about it. Marshall says, hot take, T-Law will be an elite top 10 fantasy quarterback this year. I think the Liam Cohen hiring is being very undervalued, along with how good BTJ and Travis Hunter are. I really hope so. I really hope so, because he has really failed to be anything of real fantasy football relevance over the majority of his career, and he's been given quite a short stick when you think of like the Urban Meyer hiring and then Doug Peterson and how putrid that offense had looked like at times, and then some injuries and things like that. I hope so. I really do. But it is a hot take. It is a hot take. Dallin says, you shut your mouth about the bad Saints. Unsubscribed. Well, all right. It's fine with me, Dallin. Is a hot dog a sandwich? Dallin says it's for sure a sandwich. He loves that glizzy, which is crazy. Is it a sandwich? Yeah, probably. But also, I think it's only you would say it's only a sandwich by default, because what alternative would it be? Like, what is maybe a sub, some type of sub? No, it's not a sub. I don't know. It's tough. I don't know if there's even an alternative to like compare it. Like if you said, is it this or that? I wish I could give you an answer, but I think it's its own category. Just a hot dog is its own category, maybe. Anthony says, I asked earlier, but for the viewers, Giddens or Ollie? Holding Braylon and have Giddens, but Ollie just sitting there staring on waivers. I'm dropping Giddens personally for Ollie. I just think he has a better chance at production early on in the season. Obviously, you're holding Giddens, hoping that an injury happens. Not hoping. Let me rephrase my words. You're holding Giddens in case an injury happens to JT, but we already have an injury to Achane, so I would probably be picking up Ollie there. Heavy Metal says, wish you were in Your Idiot League Mates again this year. That's how I started getting into your channel. Yeah, I mean, look, it is what it is, man. Let's just say I didn't have too much of a say in that, but it was a fun time last year. And I do think it was a good time with those guys at BDG, and I think it did help people like you find this channel and find me and get exposed to me in different ways, and I am very grateful for that. Got a lot of love for Nick and some of those guys over there at BDG. But yeah, I mean, opportunities change, things change. We had some things that came up where we just decided that it was better for both of us to move in different directions going into the year. I had an opportunity to do some work for Dynasty Nerds down the road, and things have worked out great. So no bad blood between me and those guys. It was fun to be in that league. I wish I was, because, you know, part of the fun of that is being able to trash talk and do some things like that with their YouTube channel there. But I'm glad that you're still sticking around, hanging out, being a part of this channel. And hopefully that was a good enough explanation. It's never really been addressed. I never have felt like it really needed to be addressed. I've been asked this question on multiple occasions, like what happened between you and BDG? And really the answer is nothing happened. But that's kind of the first time I addressed it. So hopefully that explains it a little bit for you. Mostly says, def the right answer. Pies have filling and crust. Cakes are made with batter, not filling. Love that. TD says, yeah, Curtis, my rookie dynasty draft, a guy took Scatabo 110, letting Warren and Golden fall to me. That's crazy too. Any thoughts on the pre-opener depth charts posted? Anything pique your interest, like Bill RB4 or Caleb Johnson RB3, or just not looking too much into it? Not paying too much attention to it. I think some of that is gamesmanship by NFL teams, coaches, GMs. I think when it comes down to it, the best players are going to be on the football field. And if that's Bill, if that's Caleb, which I do believe those are two of the better players in their backfields, that's who's going to be on the football field when it's all said and done. So it's hard to keep talent off of the football field. The cream always rises to the top. So I don't care about a depth chart that comes out today. Let me see what happens when they're on the football field this weekend. Ollie over Giddens all day with weird A-chance shit and right injury. Yeah, exactly. I think that's probably the best play. How do you think the Vikings-Bears week 1 matchup plays out? It's going to be very interesting. I'm definitely intrigued. I think it's a good test right away for the Vikings and both the Bears. I mean, that division in general is going to be a bloodbath, but I think it could go either way. JJ McCarthy's first game as the starter, being on the road in Chicago, that's going to be tough. I think it's definitely not an easy, like, welcome to the NFL game. It's a tough game. It's probably going to be fairly high scoring as well. I think the one thing that I would lean on is, even though the Bears defense is good, Brian Flores is a demon when it comes to scheming pressure to the quarterback. And we're going to find out very quickly, you know, how much Caleb Williams has improved. And maybe it's not a great first impression, because sometimes even Brian Flores has veteran quarterbacks looking crazy. But yeah, I mean, overall, that kind of explains how I feel. I think it's a toss-up game. It's 50-50. I'm going to lean Minnesota because of Brian Flores and the defense, but being on the road is definitely a tough one. My eyes are going to be on it, and I'm glad it's a primetime game to start the year. That's kind of fun being a Vikings fan. Greek dogs are the RB1 of hot dogs, only found in northwestern PA. I don't know if I've ever had one. I'm close to PA. I'm in Jersey, but I've never had a Greek dog, so I don't know what that is. But if it's the RB1, I'm intrigued. JD says, I think Najee being RB1 is kind of interesting. I think a lot of people wrote Najee off completely this season way too early. Yeah, Hampton is great, but Najee will be getting decent work as well, in my opinion. Yeah, I mean, I was kind of part of the narrative of early on, I think Najee's going to be more involved than people think, but it's tough when you miss all of that time. I know he's listed as RB1 on the chart, but I still think week 1 they're going to give Hampton a ton of work, and it's going to be hard to keep Hampton off the football field if he's looking efficient. So I think both of these guys can be fine, but I wouldn't be surprised if they lean on Hampton more early on, because Najee just getting a full participant today, it's going to be tough to go out there and play against, like I said, a tough Kansas City run defense. Anthony says, okay, so hold Giddens. Got it. Thanks. Kidding. Bumped up my FAF just now. All right. I appreciate it. RB1 as in on the depth chart. Exactly. Yeah. Mostly says, want to try to pivot off T-Law for a different quarterback and Purdy and Dak are staring right at me. Is it worth it to move off as a contender, or should I just hold with the Liam Cohen hype? It's going to depend on your league. If you have people in your league that are wanting to get real caught up in the Liam Cohen hype and T-Law is going for a valuable cost, I would pivot off of him. But the reality is most leagues don't have players playing in them that are treating Trevor Lawrence like that. So I don't think you're going to be able to get much. In fact, I would assume that you would probably have to either go straight across 1-for-1 and or add extra to T-Law to get to those players. So I'm not sure. I think if it were me, like I said, I'd rank them as a contender. I would probably go Dak, Purdy, and T-Law, or Purdy, Dak, T-Law. T-Law would be my last guy, but it's going to depend on the trade market. Aldo says start 2, Debo, Ridley, or RJ Harvey full PPR. I'm going to go with Ridley here in a full PPR league. And I guess if I have to pick the other one, let's see. Debo for me comes in as my wide receiver 38. And Harvey comes in as my running back 29. I'm probably going to go with Debo over Harvey to start the year. So give me Debo and Ridley. Curtis says, what advice do you have for a dynasty football creator? I've been editing videos for over 12 years, not in this space, more commercial work, but I love fantasy football and I got a lot to say. That's a good question. So I would say for people that are trying to get into dynasty fantasy football content, or people that are trying to get into fantasy football content in general, I would say my biggest 3 pieces of advice I would give you is, one, you got to make sure you truly do love the game. And I don't mean just the game of fantasy football. We all love fantasy football. That's why we're here. But when it comes to being a creator, you have to be able to enjoy spending time of your day researching different topics, spending time of your day creating graphics, spending time of your day editing videos, recording videos, learning, teaching yourself how to do some of this, be better on camera, teach yourself how to speak, present yourself better. Like, these are all things that end up consuming your time. So if you don't love it entirely and love the game of content creation and the game of fantasy football, it's going to be very hard for you to do this consistently. And that comes to my second point, is you have to be consistent. If you're not consistent as a creator, it's hard for YouTube. It's hard for really an audience to latch onto you. You have to figure out amount of content that you are willing to put out, that you can physically put out during your work week, during whatever it is that you do, because this isn't going to be your full-time job to start it. This is going to be a pastime. So you have to be able to figure out how much you can do. I would say at minimum, you probably need to be putting out 1 video a week. I would say more, the better. It doesn't have to be every single day, but 2 to 3 a week is probably a sweet spot for you, especially in the dynasty fantasy football niche. But I've seen people who have done 1 to 2 videos a week that are very well thought out, well researched, well edited, well presented pieces of content that end up being very good. So those are kind of the first 2. You got to love it, all of the aspects of it, the content creation and the game itself, and you got to be very consistent. And then the last thing is, you have to be willing to do this for free for probably 12 to 24 months, where you're going to make very little money. Sometimes my first year of doing this, I made $0. I did it because I loved it. I did it because I wanted to do it. But you are going to be doing it for free for a period of time. So if you're doing it to try and make money, or you want to make money from it, just understand that you have to do this for free for 24 months or something like that in order to get to a point to where you can start making a little bit of a paycheck from this and using that for the better. Now, those would kind of all be my 3 biggest key points. But overall, as a creator, if you've been editing videos, you understand it. You understand kind of what that comes with. But I think that's the biggest advice I would have for you. I would love to even have more conversations about this, because I love talking about the creative process. I love talking about the behind the scenes of this and what it takes to kind of run a YouTube channel that can turn into a business for you. So would love to have more conversations about it, but those are my 3 pieces of main advice for you, Curtis. So I really appreciate that question, and good luck to you if you are planning on making some fantasy football content. If you are planning on doing this, good luck to you, man, because it is hard, it is a grind, but it is worth it if you spend the time. So again, I know I said it a few times, but good luck. Caleb says Aldo, or he says, get Aldo out of here and add me in this week. Aldo, don't listen to him. You just asked me. That's what I told you, Aldo. Don't doubt the boy. Well, it sounds like I gave you the same advice as Caleb, so there you go. Robo says, is Caleb Johnson a flex play this week or wait and see? I think I'm waiting and seeing with Caleb. I have him currently in my rankings this week as my running back 38, kind of similar range as guys like Braylon Allen, Rashad White, Dylan Sampson. So you definitely have better flex plays than him, especially if you start looking at the wide receiver position. A lot of people think Mahomes is going to regain elite fantasy status this year. I think it will be tough while Rashee Rice is suspended. What do you think? I agree. I think early on when it looked like Rashee maybe would be avoiding a suspension, I was part of that. He can bounce back. I'm right back with you where I think it's going to take some time. It's going to be hard while Rashee is out. They're probably going to play a little bit more of that ugly, slow-paced football that the Chiefs have done that have won them games in the past. So I'm with you. I'm with you. I think it's going to be tough, but he can bounce back. The second half, he might be a second half sleeper. That might be something for him in fantasy, is more of a second half sleeper. I think Mahomes is the safest floor play anymore. I do think he's a safe floor play. I mean, let's just look at where I have him in my rankings this week, just for shits and giggles, because I don't think I have him very high, but I don't think I have him very low either. Like, he's my QB9. Like, low end QB1, high end QB2. I think he's going to be fine. Maybe not. He doesn't give you the ceiling like Jalen Hurts. He doesn't give you the ceiling like Josh Allen, like Lamar Jackson, like Jaden Daniels. Those guys that can run for 2 or 3, get a tush push, throw a couple 100 yards, and he doesn't give you that ceiling. That's the only annoying thing. Curtis says, love that answer. That was very thoughtful. Thank you. He says, you're the man. So humble. I really appreciate that response. Thank you. Yeah, seriously, it means it's no big deal to me. So I appreciate you being here. And like I said, if you ever want to talk more about that, go join the Discord. If you're in the Discord, I don't know if you're in the Discord, Curtis, but go join our Discord. It's free to join. Shoot me a DM if you have any questions about content creation and things like that. Would be more than happy to have some additional conversations with you. And hopefully we see you in these live streams all year round. Got HN at 208, was planning on reaching around ahead on Ollie Gordon's ADP, which on Sleeper would be around 13, and he got sniped in the 11th. That too early, or should I have been more aggressive? I think it's fine. HN is going to play week 1, so I think you're fine. I mean, obviously you would have liked to handcuff him, but that's the price you pay, I think, at times. So I don't think I would be too upset about it. Obviously annoying that he got sniped a couple rounds ahead, but it is what it is. Caleb says, how high is too high for your boy, JJ McCarthy? Week 1 rankings? How high is too high in week 1? In my week 1 rankings, I have him... I have him that mid to low end QB2 range, week 1. It's a tough matchup against Chicago. Like I said, on the road. Probably would be viewing him similar to a guy like CJ Stroud week 1. Maybe a guy like Bryce Young week 1. That's probably how I'd be viewing him. So how high is too high? I wouldn't put him in the top 12. I probably wouldn't put him in the top 15. So 16 range is probably about the highest I would say you can put him and be fine. Stat line projection for Jordan Mason. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I would say if I'm looking at week 1, let's say somewhere between 8 to 12 carries. Let's call it 40 yards and 2 receptions. That's it. that feel low? It might feel a little bit low, but that's kind of where my head's at. Like 8 to 12 carries, 40 yards, and 2 receptions. That's probably about where I have him. Maybe 1 reception. Maybe get some goal line work. We'll see. Touchdown falls this way, you're happier. If it's not, you're probably not too happy. Do you think Stroud is underrated, especially in Dynasty? I'm a Texans homer and own him in Dynasty, but I'm as biased as possible. But I feel like I'm on an island that still believes in his rookie season compared to the market. I think the problem with CJ Stroud is he presents 0 rushing upside. And a lot of what happened as a rookie was very high volume, very highly efficient touchdown numbers, which is hard to project. So if you do think they're going to improve as a pass blocking unit, if they're going to improve as an offense in general, then there's room for some bounce back, but I just don't think he has as high of a ceiling as people want. I don't think it's crazy to say that CJ Stroud, from a dynasty perspective, could be very Jared Goff-ish if he's in the right offense. But I just don't think you guys have the right pass blockers in front of him right now to give him time to do that. So I am still a little bit lower on CJ Stroud than I think you would be, obviously being a Texans homer, but I don't think he's a bad player. If I'm picking a player like Stroud, where he's going, I would like a higher ceiling, and I would lean for other players. Like, I think Bo Nix has a higher ceiling than CJ Stroud because of some of the rushing upside and things like that. Curtis says, joining. Thank you. Appreciate you. Excited to talk to you. Dan says, loved the content creator question and answer. I've been contemplating making fantasy content for a hobby as well. I encourage everybody to do it, man. At least try it. Here's the thing is, like I said in that answer, it is tough. It's a grind. And I say that as kindly and honestly as I possibly can. It is a grind. There's times where even I will wake up and I'm like, fuck, man, like I don't want to make a piece of content today. And the reality is, on the days that I feel like that, I probably shouldn't. I don't know if I come across as good as I need to in those days, but it's a grind. But at the end of the day, if you're willing to stick to something for a long period of time and you do find that you enjoy it, which I do, it'll pay off eventually. I mean, I've been blessed enough and I've been lucky enough to be given opportunities in this space where if I hadn't been consistent, if I hadn't been trying to improve as a creator each and every day, if I hadn't put in the time and the effort, the hard work behind the scenes that people don't see on camera, I would have never gotten those opportunities. So I'm very blessed to have gotten them, but it comes from a place of time, effort, and dedication that comes with it. So I encourage everybody to try it, figure out if it's something for you. It's not for everybody. I know that 100% for certain because I've seen people who have made content and get burnt out and not make content anymore. I've seen people come and go in this space, and I'm still new to the space. It's not even like I've been around for a long time. I'm 3 years in. It's longer than I think some people. At this point, I'm almost off of my rookie contract, right? You know, if we're talking about this in NFL terms, but it's a grind, and I encourage everybody to try it and figure out if it's for you. But yeah, I would just say, Dan, if you're thinking about it, do it. Just rip the Band-Aid off. That's another thing too. A lot of times people as creators, they always think about, should I do this? Or maybe I need to get this figured out first before I make this piece of content. Fuck that. Just make the piece of content. You don't have to have the studio mic. You don't have to have the best software. You don't have to have the best thumbnails and the editing and all of that stuff day one, video one, ready to go. I mean, at the end of the day, you're not going to be a great content creator day one. You work towards that. So being able to get the reps in and embrace being a mediocre, maybe even being a bad content creator to start, just start doing it. Rip the Band-Aid off and start doing it. That's my suggestion. A-Rod says, yo, Mason getting a touchdown for sure. Goal line back, baby. Definitely could be a goal line back here. I think he could get into the end zone as well. But let's see. JD says, yeah, like Stroud should not be compared to JJ McCarthy and Bryce Young. What are we doing? I mean, at the end of the day, it's probably about where he's going to produce week 1. Like I said, that offensive line isn't great. Stroud playing that Los Angeles Rams pass rush, Jared Verse, some of those other guys, very tough defense. I don't know. He doesn't possess a lot of upside, but he's kind of in that low end QB2 range for me. How you feeling about Reek this year? I have him in Dynasty in one of my redraft teams, and I'm getting a little nervous at this point. In Dynasty, I'm definitely nervous about him. In redraft, if you drafted him where you got him, it's probably the risk is baked into the draft pick. But in Dynasty, I don't love him. I just think my biggest question with Tyreek is not whether he has the physical ability to play football anymore. It's whether he has the mental desire to play football as much as he has in the past. But I hope he gets out to a good start this year. Tua and those guys are going to rely on Tyreek still regardless. The offense is going to run through him as long as he's healthy. So I wouldn't be too worried about him in a redraft, but in a dynasty, he makes me nervous in a dynasty. There's so much bias against Stroud. Stroud showed so much more than May, but for some reason, May is the next coming over Herbert. He has 0 30-point games. Stroud does, so he hasn't shown upside. I would disagree. Honestly, I think really when it comes down to 30-point games is a pretty crazy benchmark for the most part. But when you look at the upside, it's being able to have the higher floor, the higher weekly floor of Drake May. I think when you look at arm talent, I think Drake May has more arm talent than CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud is probably more accurate than Drake May at this point in time. He is more accurate at this point in time. But I think when you're looking at things for fantasy football, I think the rushing upside of May and the big arm of May, plus the fact that his offensive line is going to be better than CJ Stroud's, there's reason why people would pick May. I'm not saying that he should be very, very highly above CJ Stroud, but there's definitely the reason to back why you would go May. But that's what I love about Dynasty in general, is everybody can make an opinion like this. Like, you can have an opinion of your own and you can run with it for your team. Nobody can tell you you're wrong. We're trying to predict the future. Nobody can tell you what the future is going to be confidently. We can try and point to variables to help us predict the future. But at the end of the day, people still have to make the decision. So that's why I love this game so much. May's just an example compared to the market. And yeah, I mean, for the record too, I think Drake May's dynasty market is overvalued. I don't think he should be as ranked as highly as he is in the dynasty market. Javonte, Ford, or Samson in the flex full PPR. I'm going to go with Javonte. None of these guys really give me a lot to love. I think Javonte, you're just hoping for a touchdown. Maybe the same thing can be said for Ford. And actually, now that I'm talking about it, I think I'm going to change my answer. I'm going Ford. I'm going to move Ford over Javonte in my rankings. I think the Cincinnati defense is more likely to give up a touchdown than the Philadelphia Eagles. So just give me Ford there. But none of these make me very excited. Prediction for Marv, Tet, and Rome this year as a wide receiver finish the year. I'm going to say Marv is a top 15 PPR wide receiver. Tet is a top 24, and Rome is a top 20 wide receiver. So I'm going 15, 20, and 24 for those guys. All of them going to be wide receiver 2s or better, but none of them crack into the wide receiver 1 range. Isaiah Bond making a splash this year for the Browns. Potentially could. I mean, that wide receiver room's fairly open. I still like Tillman and Judy as the 1 and 2. Thrash has been all right in the preseason, and Joku's still going to be a contributor. I think as long as Flacco's the QB, some guys can be relevant. But if they end up going at any point in time to anybody else, I start losing a lot of my interest in the pass catching options there. So excuse me. So I think there's a chance he does, but I'm still viewing Bond as like a taxi squad stash for 2024, and we'll see what happens. But I'm going to call last call. People, we are at an hour and 15 minutes. I do typically like to keep these around the hour-long mark just because we're doing multiple of these throughout the week. So I'm going to call last call on questions. I'll give you guys a couple minutes to get those in. If we don't get any, I'll just wrap it up. But this is the final call here for questions. JD says, yeah, I don't know. I'm biased clearly, but I do feel the market is skeptical of the Texans overall, but especially Stroud. Feel like his dynasty value going up after this season is very likely. I could see that. I mean, let's just pull up like KTC and just see where he's ranked there, and talk about it. Because when I look at KTC, he's currently QB 10. I could see him potentially passing a Mahomes after Mahomes goes 30. I could see him maybe going past a guy like Justin Herbert, maybe. But I also think you have to worry about some younger guys, maybe a guy like Caleb Williams, maybe a guy like JJ McCarthy, maybe a guy like Cam Ward if he has a good rookie year or something like that. Jordan Love potentially having a good year where those guys could also pass up. It's going to be interesting to see, but I don't think Stroud is going to crack into that top like 5 or 6. So him being at 10, there is still very little room for him to move up, I do believe. Patrick says, what's up, man? You just snuck in right at the buzzer because we are on our last call for questions. So this might be the last one here unless we get one more before I finish this up. But he says 12-team PPR keeper league, 2 wide receivers, a running back, or 2 wide receivers, I think 2 running backs, 1 flex. Trade Sampson and Scattaboo for Kraft. I have no tight end. Quarterbacks are Purdy, May. Running backs are Chase Brown, Gibbs, Charbonnet, Warren, Scattaboo, Tootin, and Sampson. I mean, the fact that you don't have a tight end and you need one, probably willing to do it. Scattaboo and Sampson, it's not awful. I would try and throw Tootin in there over Sampson, or try and have, like, I would try and go Tootin and then one of those guys if you can, but I don't hate it. I think Kraft is a player that has some upside this year. The wave tight ends are Chig and Mason Taylor, but I have to drop Tootin or Sampson for them. I wouldn't mind dropping Tootin for Taylor if you need the tight end and keeping the other 2 guys. I think that's actually what I would prefer. I wonder if Herbert eats sherbet. Probably. Wasn't he like out for ice cream with like Madison Beer or something? Isn't that why Sleeper changed his profile picture? Peter says Garrett Wilson or T-Mac. Week 1, give me Garrett Wilson. I have Garrett Wilson currently as my wide receiver 18. Tetaroa as my wide receiver 22. And he said in a dynasty league. Oh, so not even week 1. In a dynasty league, just who do I take in general? Still give me Garrett Wilson. Not by a lot, though. JD says, I'm actually shocked he's QB 10. May at QB 7 is a sell for me. That's crazy. That's what I'm saying. I think people speak more about how negative they are about Stroud than he actually is, because when it comes to like most rankings, I still feel like he's still fairly high. So him being a QB 10, like, I don't know if he was like QB 15, QB 20 or whatever, then yeah, I think he would definitely have room for improvement. But QB 10, it still feels like he's being valued fairly high. But that's it, folks. I think that's what we're going to be at for the evening. Patrick says, thanks. No problem. Thank you all for being in here tonight, hanging out with me for a little while. Like I said, this is the first of many. We have these all season long, all year round. Moving forward, we do have a ton of content coming forward. Tomorrow, week 1 running back and wide receiver rankings and tier lists will be on the channel. Thursdays, we will have dynasty content plus stash content on the channel. Friday, we will have some other stuff on here. I think it's a Q&A on Friday night as well. Dynasty trade shows on Saturdays. start sits on Sundays, all of that good stuff. Waivers, buy, sell, holds, all that all week. 10 videos a week into your subscription feed. So if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button. Hit the like button if you haven't already too. I see we have a lot of people in here. Let's try and get that like goal up to like 25, 30 maybe by the time we end this. If you guys all tap it, if you haven't clicked that button, if you haven't clapped that button, I guess, go do that for me too. It did sound like that's what I was about to say, but do that for me and then go join the free Discord. Like I said, I'm going to speed through these ones. This is rapid fire here. Heavy Metal says, appreciate you, man. Keep doing your thing. Lots of guys seem to just be taking crazy takes to get viewers. Love the honest and solid advice. I appreciate that. I really do, because I'm never going to be a guy that just says some shit that I don't believe just to say it for shock value. And I do think that there are people in the space who do that. So I'm glad that you notice. We just try to keep it real over here. It may not be the most entertaining sometimes, but at least I'm keeping it real with you, and it's something that I believe. So I'm glad you see that. Anthony says, week 1, pick 4, DK, T-Mac, Sutton, Wilson, Igbuka. I'm going with the first 4. Igbuka hits the bench week 1. Wilson, Sutton, T-Mac, and DK. John says, see ya. Peter says, thank you. And that is it, folks. Appreciate you guys. I will see you on our next one. Like I said, rankings coming to the channel tomorrow, so stay tuned. Till then, peace out.